Now, in this edition of Let's Talk Some Star Wars, we're going to be taking a look at the results of, and your comments from, the poll that asked the question, what rating would you give Solo a Star Wars story? Also, towards the end of this video, I'll be making an announcement about how I can hopefully make these weekly videos even more about the community, so please do stick around for that at the end. Anyway, let's jump right into the results and see how Solo scores and stacks up against the other films we've done thus far. And as you can see, there's a lot of people who think this movie is about average, as 44% of people gave it 3 stars. Then, as someone who does enjoy the film, I was pretty happy to see that a quarter of all voters, or 25%, gave it 4 stars and thought it was a good movie, while only 3% thought it was amazing. You then had 19% of people who thought it wasn't very good, and 9% of people who thought it was terrible. And when we do all the math here, we get an average score of 2.94 stars, which puts it 0.02 of a star above Attack of the Clones, and keeps that film in last place, for now at least, because there is another that will no doubt challenge it for bottom honors. And all in all here, this isn't a terrible result for a film many never asked for or wanted in the first place, and that came on the heels of The Last Jedi and all the anger that movie generated. And I'd be curious to see how people would have felt or what the results might have looked like if this movie had somehow come out before The Last Jedi. But anyway, let's now get to your comments, starting as always with the top rated comment, which this week came to us from RRO, who said, "Truly fun addition to the Star Wars movie franchise. It's too bad that it so clearly paid the price for its lack of The Last Jedi choices. Couple that with the fact that Bob Iger pressed forward after reshoots and tried to cram it between Deadpool and Infinity War, it could only fail. Had it not had production director problems and spent double the budget on reshoots, it would have been considered a success on blockbuster standards. Still, I want to see maybe a Disney Plus show that revolves around Crimson Dawn and Maul in the Shadows. They can finish out the planned trilogy that way. My main legitimate complaint is that Anthony Ingruber should have been cast as that absolutely believable younger body double for Harrison Ford, even has his mannerisms and voice down." And in the comments or description below, I'll include a link to a video of Anthony Ingruber doing his Harrison Ford or Han Solo impression. And if you've never seen it before, it's worth a watch because it's pretty uncanny. And he's even played a younger version of a Harrison Ford character in the movie Age of Adaline, but for whatever reason, they didn't go with him in Solo. As for the other things RRO brought up in the comment, it just seemed like everything worked against Solo and Disney didn't do a damn thing to help the film. Honestly, it should have been pushed back to December, but Bob Iger, who has since admitted this was a mistake, insisted it keep a May release, and it was sandwiched between Deadpool 2 and Infinity War, even after it changed directors and had to reshoot a good chunk of the film. And as I've said before, personally, I do enjoy the movie. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch, and pretty much no one asked for a Han Solo origin movie, but I do enjoy it for what it is, and I also hope that the story does continue somewhere, that maybe we get a Disney Plus show that delves into what Kira and Maul are up to after the film is over. Okay, let's now move on to the next comment, and this one comes to us from Obsidian Paladin, who said, "I'll be honest, I absolutely hated it. However, if you all like it, that's awesome." And this is more or less the same thing I say about The Last Jedi. I'm not a fan of it, but if you like it, that's great. I've got nothing against you, and I don't want to take your joy away. And as I just said about Solo, I like the movie, but if you don't, that's fine. We seem to have this weird thing going in society today, where we have to view everyone who disagrees with us about anything, even Star Wars, as some sort of enemy. And look, if you're a Star Wars fan who loved The Last Jedi, you're a friend of mine as long as you respect my opinion in return. And I'll be happy to talk some Star Wars with anyone, even if you're the biggest fan ever of Episode 8. Alright, next up we have this comment from Juwang Sang, who said, "Came with little to no expectation and left happy. A fun, lighthearted, and colorful movie, just what we needed after Episode 8. And that's kind of how I felt about it. I wasn't expecting much from this movie, but it had a fun element to it, and I found it entertaining, and it just had a totally different feel or vibe to it when compared to The Last Jedi. And even if I'd loved The Last Jedi, I would have appreciated the shift in tone this movie offered, much like how Spider-Man Far From Home was a more fun, lighthearted movie in the wake of Endgame." Okay, next up here we have this comment from A and BC, who said, "It didn't deserve the hate it got from a lot of fans. I agree with some of the criticism, like Lando being made Pan for no apparent reason, but it didn't break the larger universe of Star Wars. However, Disney deserved the financial hit after the steaming turd The Last Jedi." Okay, so a lot of people brought up the whole Lando pansexual thing in the comments, or how one of the film's writers, Jonathan Kasdan, said that there was a fluidity to Lando's character and his sexuality, and said that, yeah, he's a pansexual. Though as far as I know, Lucasfilm has neither confirmed nor denied this, likely because the whole thing is a giant unstable landmine that's going to blow up in their face one way or the other if they go anywhere near this topic. And look, to be honest, in the movie, there's nothing that screams to me that Lando is interested in a droid or that he's pansexual. Yeah, the droid clearly is interested in him, but there's one scene where the droid mentions something is wrong with her and tells Lando that he'll need to do that thing again to fix it. And from my perspective at least, Lando seems less than pleased about having to do that again. Which implies, I don't think when making this movie, there was a goal to make him pansexual. It was just something Kasdan said after the fact. Maybe because he truly believes there needs to be better representation in Star Wars, or maybe because he knows if he says that flat out Lando is heterosexual, there are people out there who will get upset for some reason. Okay, let's get back to some more comments here, starting with this one from Natalie Bird, who said, "This was my reaction when Solo got announced. I was hoping for Kenobi. Why are you here? 2 stars. Then there's this comment from Edragon, who said, "Where's the option for didn't care enough to see it? I love Han's character, honestly I do, but my first reaction to hearing about an origin story movie for him was, eh." And, I get asked from time to time why I'm all for an Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone film, which I am. What makes me think it'd be good or better than Solo, or why should they make it in the first place? After all, I don't like it when, especially in the comic books lately, they take well-known or established characters and just look for a story to tell about them just because, instead of actually coming up with good stories to tell first that may or may not use certain characters. Well, first of all, I do think there's a good story to tell about Obi-Wan in this time period, one where he contemplates leaving Tatooine and giving up on everything, or is just forced to choose between leaving for a time to help someone or do something and staying and watching Luke. It also doesn't have to be just about Obi-Wan. It could be about other characters, including Darth Vader and his hunt to find Kenobi, which obviously won't be successful. Plus, just seeing Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan again would be awesome. And it's the rare exception to my rule of having a good story in place first. And we already know that McGregor is willing to do it, so please make this happen. Okay, and next up we have this comment from Blind101284, who said, "It adds almost nothing to the overall story, except for a quick glimpse into the galaxy's organized crime. Everything is shot well, made well, and the actors are great in their roles, but overall the impact is about the same if it had been a comic series." Then there's this comment from Joshua Bonesteel, who said, "I realize that I shouldn't compare it to the EU anymore, but they made a 2-hour movie that covers everything we need to know about a character that got 7 books and a number of comics just to flush out his Chewie's, Lando's, and the Falcon's backstory. In that light, this movie reached Dark Tower levels of bad, where there might have been nice things to see him do, we instead get a rushed story and a bland bad character that we can't connect with. I saw this movie because I didn't think it was fair to judge it just because The Last Jedi was bad, but it showed me that even with good directors, they can't make these new movies work." And then we also have this comment from Tyler Marchant, who said, "The issue with Solo for me was that they came up with boring, non-creative ways to explain Han's backstory. If you want to flush out a character, go for it, but do it in a way that makes them more interesting and compelling. Instead, they took everything mysterious and possibly intriguing about the character and shoved it into a small time window with nothing being earned." That then brings us to this comment from A Dude Law Gaming, who said, "My problems with Solo is Lando being pansexual, the SJW droid, and the whole movie feeling like a checklist." And yeah, I will certainly give you that they tried to shove way too much and everything you ever wanted to know about Han, and some things you didn't, like where he got his last name from, into just one movie. And as cool as it is to see him get his famous DL-44 blaster, and to complete the Kessel Run, and to meet Chewie, and to win the Falcon gambling against Lando, it really does feel like this movie is a checklist and not so much a story. Like everything that happens to Han just coincidentally enough happens in the span of like 2 days. Alright, let's get to a few more comments here before wrapping this video up. Starting with this one from Master Tim, who said, "I rated it at 3 stars. I like Alden and Donald in their respective roles, but the story just didn't feel like a Star Wars movie to me. It was too small, too low stakes. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more if it had been a TV show, and I hope it could become a TV show." Then we have this comment from Sean Collins, who said, "The little part where they were on the front lines of the war where it was all dark and gritty was a 10 out of 10. That is the Star Wars that we want to see. The rest of the movie was very average. It was an alright popcorn flick. Next up, we have this comment from Nick Vegas, who said, "It was fine, unnecessary, but fine. I don't see Alden as the same character as Harrison Ford, but he did a good job. I'd like to see the crime syndicate mall subplot explored in a Disney Plus series, for sure." Then there's this comment from Mole Man, who said, "I didn't like it. It didn't feel like Han Solo to me, or Star Wars for that matter." Next, we have this comment from Chase Lovelace, who said, "Absolutely fantastic. Everything about the movie rocks. I do want to see the connection between happy-go-lucky optimistic Han and pessimistic Han, but I think there's a lot of potential there." Next up, we have this comment from Alaric Pan, who said, "I just didn't care about it, so I waited until it was on Netflix. It was better than I expected, but far from a masterpiece." And finally here, this comment from King Rex, who said, "Rogue One was the last great Star Wars movie, and Solo was the last decent one." And well, now it's going to be time for Rogue One to prove just that. And if you're watching this video now, it means the poll for Rogue One is already up. And to quickly give my closing thoughts on Solo before getting to my little announcement, it was a movie that no one really asked for or wanted, which suffered greatly from things beyond its control mostly. And by and large, we ended up with a movie that was about average or close to it, with only 12% of voters putting it at either of the two extremes. And something tells me that a lot of people that hated it, though not all of them, did so for reasons beyond them just thinking it was a terrible movie. Okay, and now getting to my announcement. As I said at the start, I'd like to make these Let's Talk Some Star Wars videos even more about the community, because simply put, it's all of you watching these videos that make this channel possible, and make me ever so grateful for the opportunity to even get to do this. And if I can in any way, shape, or form give back or help someone chase a dream and get a foothold on YouTube or wherever else it might be, I'll happily do that. And so I'd like to do a couple different things with these Let's Talk Some Star Wars videos each week. First, to feature some artwork from all of you that I'll use in place of my generic Thor Skywalker logo that I put on screen when I'm replying to a comment, the one you see on your screen now. And when I say artwork, it can be anything from a picture you've done to perhaps a cosplay outfit you've created, or even action figure photography, or just a picture of your collection, or a cool part of it, or whatever you want to show off. Any kind of image that I can put on screen works, even if you want to send me your kid's refrigerator art. And if you want to include your name on the image or links to where people can find more of your work or follow you or whatever the case may be, do that as well. Also, if you want to give me a link with a brief description that I can copy and paste into the comments or the video description, do that too. Finally, each week I'd like to try to highlight a couple other Star Wars or general entertainment YouTube channels out there. So if you have a channel that you're trying to grow, send me a link to what you consider your best video, and I'll try to help you get some more exposure and views. Because believe me, I know how hard it is to gain traction in the YouTube algorithm when you're just starting out here. So if any of that interests you, email me what you got at the address in the description below. But do keep in mind that depending on the response I get, I can't or won't guarantee I'll get your artwork or shout out your channel in a particular video. Don't take it personally or anything, because I'm mostly going to pick this at random. So if a week or two goes by and I don't pick you, feel free to send your work again. If I notice you're being persistent, though not too persistent, I won't find it annoying. I'll take it as a sign you really want to get your work out there. And like I said, I'm grateful for this opportunity you've all allowed me, and if I can help someone else in any small way, I'll gladly do it. Well, that's all I've got for this time. Now it's your turn to comment on this video, go vote and comment on the Rogue One poll, or to email me your work, or to do none of the above. And let me end this video by just saying thank you to everyone out there who watches and supports this channel. It means so much to me.